Today I want to take a look at coding PowerShell PNP using artificial intelligence and GitHub's Copilot. Now this is similar to ChatGPT and other AI technologies that have taken off recently, but it's a little more. It gives you code coaching and suggestions based on the contents of GitHub and what's available publicly on the internet. So what we're going to do is make PNP demo AI.ps1. And this is a PowerShell file. Visual Studio Code recognizes it as a PowerShell file, and it comes with some of the coaching that you would normally get from autocomplete, like write host. It gives you the different parameters you can use. Now that we're used to, our IntelliSense, autocomplete, language awareness, that when running your extensions in VS Code, you load up the extension for PowerShell, and because you have the PowerShell extension, you're able to get language support for things like autocomplete, syntax highlighting, a lot of different things here, but we're sort of used to this, the IntelliSense. What we're going to see with AI and features like Copilot from GitHub is something a little bit more. If we write into the comments what we're trying to do, I don't know, maybe set variable x to 1 and increment by 1 up to 200 and print the value in yellow. Okay, very specific idea we're trying to execute, and all we did was write a comment. Here's what I'm attempting to accomplish in a comment. I come down to a new line, and checking our extensions, we do have GitHub's Copilot turned on. And just for a little bit more of a description on it down here at the bottom, power of AI, millions of developers, stay in the flow, solve problems in a new way from the editors of your choice. So what it's doing is making suggestions, and you can see through the demo that you're writing some particular code, and then instead of suggesting an autocomplete for one word, one command, one line, you get autocomplete for paragraphs, for blocks of code. So as we're coming through and typing and executing, then we can actually kind of guide the system with those suggestions and make edits. And here in this demo, you can see that the commentary declares the intention of what we're trying to do, and then the prompts start to fill in after that. So bringing GitHub's Copilot back over to PowerShell, this very simple demo, set a variable increment by 1 up to 200 and print in yellow. If we simply do $x equals 1 and hit enter, instead of getting a suggestion of one word or one line of code, we get a whole paragraph. That while x is less than or equal to 200, write host in yellow x++. Hit the tab key to accept it, save it, F5 to execute, and we can see all of that output coming out. So it's interesting because we're coaching the system and we're coaching it through commentary. And for years, comments meant nothing. Whatever you write in comments is for you as the developer. It's not for the system. It's not for the runtime. It's not for the extensions. It's not for the plugins. Nobody looks at the comments except for the developer. It's sort of personal notes. That has now changed. And what we write in comments can be very important because it can influence the AI systems in the background as to how they coach us through creating our code. So that's a very simple example, writing a variable. We're set it equal to 1, increment by 1 up to 200, and print in yellow. But look at what's happening here. If you actually consider the different components and break it down, we're telling it that we want to print on the screen. We're telling it what color. We're telling it how much to increment. We're telling it the maximum. So when those things come through, we see the maximum at 200. We see the print on the screen. We see the yellow. We see the increment. And all 4 of the concepts we put into a comment, not runtime code, but just in a comment. All 4 of these ideas are now represented by our suggestion that we've got in the response. And GitHub's Copilot supports this for all sorts of languages. It's much more than just PowerShell. So that's an idea of just how it could work. Now, if we wanted to do something more specific, like open connection to SharePoint online with PNP PowerShell and client ID and secret, it comes back with a full suggestion. Okay. And with that, we might just say something like client ID equals dollar client secret equals, and so it's kind of going along and doing the autocomplete. Tenant equals, and with that, we're going to go ahead and populate this with a live connection. So I want to put a tenant value down. Yes, I want to put a real client ID in secret. These are deleted at the end of the video, so they're only functional for creation of the video. A secret client ID, yes. And then we'll take away our connect command. And now that we have variables, we can define the site, define the connection, and yeah, I mean, are we connecting to the demo endpoint? Which part of the system do we want to connect to? It's fascinating stuff, but it is actually coaching us through making these particular suggestions. And we can even do like that. Cool. And then here I might say enumerate all site collections and print the title in yellow. It kind of knows that I have this thing for yellow based on the comments we've had higher up in the code. So that made a suggestion for this entire block. And if we go ahead and take that over, we can execute that code. App ID. So the parameters are different. And I have run into this where the suggestions it might make are based on older releases of a module, and there could be some syntax updates you need. I mean, it gets you awfully close is the point. So yeah, get sites, enumerate, there we go. And yeah, that actually worked. It came back and enumerated all the sites on the tenant. So there it is making the connection. There it is enumerating. That's amazing. Amazing stuff. And maybe you want to do something else, like, I don't know, enumerate the site collections and print the title in yellow. That's fine. Maybe you want to enumerate all lists on the root web and modify each setting version history to 10. Get the list. For each list, print the title in yellow. And see, this is in gray right now. I haven't hit tab to accept it. And there are 3 suggestions being made. I can look at the next one. I can look at the next one. And maybe pick out which one kind of works for me. So here it's using more of a CSOM pattern with the $list.update on suggestion 2. And let's see if we can highlight that a little bit better. Suggestion 2. Yeah, here we go. $list.update. So this is more of like a client-side object model pattern. That's suggestion number 2. Maybe we want to just keep looking at the suggestions. Suggestion number 1, suggestion number 2 is a set PNP list command. Suggestion 3, list or list.title. So these are very similar. It's just one of them said list and the other one said list.title, because the set command can accept either the list object or the string identifier of the title. And we have enable, maximum, and minor versions. So for this one, I kind of like this suggestion 3 as being a very simple pattern with the $list object. So we'll hit the tab key to accept. And now the gray became colorized and it all became merged into our PS1 file where we can go through and execute those sort of changes. And it's really interesting. I mean, what we're able to do with this by using comments to educate the system on our intention and then receive suggestions, not of one line of code, but of one paragraph of code. It's powerful and it's not going away. I mean, I think this will become the new standard. Long ago, maybe people typed everything by hand before we had IntelliSense. And IntelliSense is fantastic. You do things like write-host, and it gives you this suggestion, tells you about the syntax, make sure you spell it correctly. The AI Copilot and similar tools are the same thing, but at a larger scale. And it's now using comments. And I think that's the real big takeaway, is use your comments well. right? And when I think about that, I would say, expressions like keywords that match your variables. If you're going to call something customer in your comments, then call it customer in the code. Kind of use your comments as a way to educate the system. Maybe longer comments, right? They're very specific in what you're trying to do. And more frequent comments that we want these every couple of lines. Like tell the system why we're doing this. We're checking a condition, and maybe it could be something like if the list title contains keyword audit, then modify permission inheritance. Well, we'll say then break permission inheritance and grant full access to audit. And look at that. I mean, by making one very specific and very lengthy comment, we're able to get the like expression for containing the keyword. We're able to get things like break the role inheritance, yes. And then we can set the permission with full control to audit. And I said full access, but it turned it into full control. And that's a sort of mapping of what the SharePoint permission levels are going to be, that it's aware of that. But it did get the name of the group correct because that's an exact expression. So I think, more frequent comments, more specific comments, there's a lot of potential here for just creating functional code quickly. And you will have to edit. It's not exactly perfect, but it doesn't have to be. If you write a really lengthy comment and this is an 85% match, then you can come in here and tweak some of the parameters, maybe change this one, change that one, but it gives you something functional quickly so you can iterate. And good software is all about iterations. We release, we iterate, we release, we iterate, and there's always another version. So I think, as you look at what these tools might mean for developers, the big takeaway for me is the usage of comments in a more strategic manner. Lengthy comments, specific comments, and frequent comments. Thanks for watching.